Hey there, it's 4:14 p.m. It is December 12th. It's Friday afternoon, and some of you guys are getting ready to get off from work and looking forward to the weekend, a little of your time to yourself, and I hope that you guys spend your time wisely and do something that is going to elevate your mood and make you feel vibrant and new. So I just got back from the store, and the sun started showing, for the last few days it's just been really dark, and the sun came out, and it stayed out for a long period of time. I'm like, this gives me the perfect opportunity to get outside. So I got my little buggy cart and I went up to Walmart. It was a beautiful day. I went to the park for a little bit and enjoyed being outside looking at the beautiful autumn trees. I mean, it's just so beautiful and bright outside. If you get a chance, if it's like this tomorrow, if you live here in Bakersfield, make sure you get out and enjoy some of the beautiful autumn air. It's just absolutely lovely. So today I was working on my video. This is my follow up to Human Targets. It's called Vigilantes Must Go. Now, I mentioned before that I was thinking about either combining these two videos or making them separate. What I was referring to was me talking about the emergency response systems, or the issue of finding competent people to work within certain departments like the police department, sheriff department, fire department, emergency ambulance services, these sort of things. So I'm decided to make these two separate videos. Vigilantes Must Go is, like I said, it's a follow up to Human Targets, and it's basically talking about the different ways that vigilantes are in the workplace and how they tend to use discrimination and harassment in their hiring and their employment, as well as in their employment decisions. Okay, and a lot of this is based on my own experience. Okay, as well as touching on of course, things relating to aspects of the law. Okay, I am going to be going into the behavior and how it affects targets. Hang on a second, my teapot is whistling. Hang on. Okay, I am back. I had to go downstairs and get my teapot turned off. So anyway, I was talking about me making another video called Vigilantes Must Go, and this particular video is a follow up from Human Targets, and I'm talking about some of the discrimination and the harassment tactics that many traffickers do use. And I know that sometimes it's not even an issue of human trafficking. Sometimes we deal with managers and business owners that say and do things that are off color, meaning something that's inappropriate, or they do inappropriate things to people who belong to protected classes. What are protected classes? Protected classes are um, people who belong in specific groups that have been historically targeted for whatever. Okay, like for example, I'm an African American, and I would say historically we have been targeted. Okay, we've had dealt with all kinds of injustices when it relates to employment. Also, women are another issue who deal with a lot of targeting or unfair business practices, mainly because some people, and a lot of this comes from a religious point of view. They think, well, women should all be married. They should not be single. They should not be existing on their own. My example, I think a lot of people have now realized that some women do have to exist on their own. Sometimes it has a lot to do with the fact that they are in jeopardy, their lives are in jeopardy. They may not want to be able, may not be in a position to trust other people. For example, I was a victim of human trafficking, and made it so that my entire environment was no longer safe. Okay, so there are reasons why. And when it comes to employment, it is not the employer's responsibility to find out why. It is as basic as hiring people based on their skills. Okay. So, as a manager or a business owner, it is my responsibility to find the most qualified people who are going to move my business plans forward. Okay. And so, this is what I'm talking about. Now, I understand that there are some people who may have been raised in a certain environment to where, like, for example, religion. Okay, religion is a big one. Some people only see the worldview through the eyes of their religion, especially if this was their upbringing from childhood, and I would say their environment may have reinforced this way of thinking. Okay, and then they get to the workplace and they say something and they do something based on their religion. Okay, now, for example, there may have been some people who thought because I was a person who didn't go to church, okay, that I was not worthy of blessings, like, going to buy things, being able to have money to spend on my own or whatever. So they may orchestrate things to prevent you from having money, okay? And if they are using religion as an excuse, I am not in any way, what do you call it, responsible or obligated to adhere to the tenets of their religion. So what they're trying to do is force their religion on you, okay? Or punish you, right? Or deprive you of a right, right? Your right is to have a job and to work in an environment free of harassment, right? Okay, so I'm trying to give as many examples as I can in these particular videos because a lot of people, they have a religious thinking. And there is nothing wrong with people who want to believe or practice a specific religion. But what a lot of people do not understand is that they chose to practice this, and they are only supposed to inflict or adhere to these particular laws, right, with other people if they are dealing with their own members within their congregation. Like, for example, you might be, I don't know, maybe a religion that doesn't believe in spending, okay? And I'm going to make up some like a funny storyline to this. Like, maybe you believe in being really cheap. Like, you might use the same the same coffee filter every day until it falls apart, right? And so because you believe in this, you believe in being very thrifty, okay? And maybe you belong to a religion where you do not believe in spending anything on extras. All you do, your religion only focuses on having things that you need. Okay, and some people are like that. Some people really believe that that's a good path to be on. Not me, okay, but that's your choice, okay? So you believe in this. So then you decide to, everyone else needs to see the world the way that you do. So you might use manipulative tactics, such as withholding somebody's paycheck because you don't believe that they should have the freedom to spend their money on what they want to, okay? That right there is against the law, okay? You are supposed to pay people their money regardless, okay? So what I'm talking about is people who need to abide by employment law. And I know a lot of times people bring in their personal feelings, their personal vendettas. I know that there was a group of people who targeted me. I had mentioned my experience at Murray Family Farms. I also mentioned how it followed me with, gaining momentum with people like, the kids of 533, the kids from school, the girl from Murray Family Farms, snowballing into Flourishing Art and all these other places that I worked, using manipulative tactics within the community to also bully me over something that was their fault in the first place. All of it was their fault, okay? So I'm going to give examples of the different forms of discrimination, and I'm going to be sending that out sometime next week, okay? And then my second follow-up project, is I'm going to be talking about the emergency response system. What can we do? Okay, I don't know what I'm going to call it, but it's basically going to cover how the issue of people may not being able to fill these positions because they might have specific biases. If you have a specific bias of, like maybe you might be a white supremacist, maybe the person wasn't helping me or being accommodating to me at the police department because I know I was targeted, okay, but in other situations, they may not believe in helping somebody who's not their color, or he may not believe in helping people who don't go to his church, or he may believe, the very fact that I'm a woman all by myself, that I'm supposed to be punished. Okay, people need to leave their personal issues or personal opinions out of these sort of companies, because the company is supposed to service not the company, yeah, these services are supposed to provide emergency services for the community, okay? So people sometimes want to interject their personal feelings and beliefs into these sort of organizations, and this is what I'm talking about. These are the people that need to be eliminated from their positions, okay? So I am working on that, and and I have been looking for work. I need to follow up on some resumes that I submitted I would say midweek or whatever. I'm doing the best I can to get back to work. I would say that it is becoming abundantly clear to the people in this community that yes, indeed, I am a lifelong victim of bullying as well as child abuse, okay? And like, maybe my mother never really, she did spank, okay? And sometimes she spanked at a turn, but most of the time, most of the abuse came from, number one, negligence, ignoring the kid, okay, not really getting a chance to know a person, right? This is the reason why the kids of 533 were insisting I was one way when I was really another way. Okay. And then we had other kids. I would say in bullying situations, a lot of times people see what they want to see. Okay. And also because a lot of these people were trying to use religion as an excuse, right? No matter how you slice it, religion should never be inflicted on anyone in an employment situation. Okay. And so these people were in the wrong. And I'm not trying to argue it. I'm just moving on from the situation. Okay. But it's becoming very clear that I'm somebody who dealt with something I should not have dealt with. Okay. So at this moment, my main goal, of course, is to get back to work. And I know that I've dealt with some pretty annoying things in the last few weeks. I am making it, very clear that I am moving on from my past. And it's important that I do. You know what I mean? I think one of the reasons why I enjoy or believe in autonomy is because I think throughout my life as being CB Berganza, as well as being a clone, and the fact that people try to limit you and your rights, okay? Like, for example, as a woman who is, I would say when it comes to the protective classes, under the protected classes, I am under a lot of those categories. Okay, I'm somebody who could be, harassed and discriminated against for several reasons. Me being a woman over the age of 40. Okay, me being a woman who's single. Okay, me being a black woman. Okay, me being somebody who doesn't want to be a part of mainstream religion. It's these sort of things, okay? And really, I'm asking is that you look at my skills, look what I have to bring to the table, and that's what you're supposed to hire for. Okay, not anything else. Okay, and then also, I think it's important to talk about name calling and how it's the manager's responsibility to make sure that they do not create these sort of hostile environments within their workplaces. I do remember when I was working at a company, this one man, he was an older man, okay, and he was talking to an Asian lady, and he was basically talking about her, and he was in front with all his white friends. And then he goes into this conversation about Asian women and their slanted eyes. He didn't even think that perhaps maybe he was making her feel uncomfortable. Some of you, they don't think about what they say before they say it, okay? When you're dealing, if you're a manager, you should never make any sort of comment about somebody's physical appearance. This includes their race, okay? It includes what they look like. This could relate to sexual harassment as well as their physical characteristics. I had talked about being mobbed out of my job and being blacklisted, okay, because I am an American woman who chooses to wear wigs. Okay, I wear half wigs. Okay, meaning the front part of my hair is my hair, and because my hair is like really, really, really tightly coiled and kind of a mess, I choose to wear half wigs. Okay, and so I was being harassed over that. Now, like I said, when it comes to the workplace, okay, and black women and our hair, this has been an issue that we've dealt with historically. Okay, so I am a protected class. Okay, so this should have never escalated to this point. Okay, and I have been denied my rights, and I have been, blacklisted, and I was ostracized as well as, gossiped about, okay, and exaggerated. Some people, and I want to talk a little bit more about sexual harassment and the perpetrators of sexual harassment. A lot of times, the perpetrators of sexual harassment are women, indeed women. A lot of women become very insecure about themselves, and because I think a lot of people knew, yes, I care a lot about my looks. I'm not gonna lie, okay? I love clothes and I love coordinating it all together. I love matching. Like today, I saw this my burgundy top, and I was looking at the blue in here, and I kept thinking, how can I blend this all together? So I got my eyeliner, put a little blue on there. Of course, when it comes to burgundy, I mean, I go crazy. I got to paint my lips burgundy. It just is, okay? It has to be that way. It has to be that way. Okay, and that's how I am. Okay, and so some girls might look at this and be like, oh, she's trying to get men or whatever. Okay, number one, okay, that's not the case. But by making these sort of comments in the workplace, you are actually creating tension. You are drawing more attention than I have to be. Yes, I have the right to wear nice clothes. I have the right to wear what I want to wear. Okay. And no, I do not feel comfortable with people making comments about me and what I look like or my body, shaming my body, or, saying things like, I know people also talk about me having Peter Pan syndrome. Yes, I do look younger than my age, but like I said, black don't crack. Okay. It don't crack. Okay. Like I said, our skin I would say black people age a lot less than at a slower pace than a lot of our white counterparts. Okay, but whatever the case is, people talk about my looks all the time, and I get tired of it. You know what I mean? I have the right to preserve my looks for other parts of my life. Okay, like for example, let's just say, for example, I choose to go out traveling and I want to meet other people who share the same values, or I want to meet or attract people who have the same values, same type of friends, that, you know, that kind of stuff. I have the right to preserve who I am. And so you deal with a lot of women who want to bully you and basically put you to death and not only sexually harass you, but blacklist you on top of it. Okay, so what I'm talking about is the irresponsible behavior or ignorance of people in management as well as business owners. Okay, so I'm putting this video together and I'm really excited to present it. And I hope and I aim to be Gordon's Occupational Engineering, the #1 leader in workplace education. That's exactly what I want. You know what I mean? I want to continue to make videos. I want to make them even better. You know what I mean? Hopefully, maybe find people who want to help me, you know, put together better productions and that sort of stuff in the future. Okay. But right now, it's just me and my PowerPoint scripts, and that's what I got. Okay. And I feel as though, you know, I'm sad that a lot of people do not adhere to workplace laws and base it off of something that is so fragile and so dangerous, which is religion. Okay. And like I said, you know, I do not believe that this is really based on religion because, like I said, everybody in this particular group all were part of different denominations. So that is an obvious issue is that these people were just competitive and jealous of me. Okay. So anyway, moving forward, you know, I'm excited about my new productions, and I'm trying to get right, you know, adjust my mood and trying to find my what do you call it, a routine. Okay, because for a long time, you know, I know that I was dealing with the obstruction of this particular network. We're trying to silence me, prevent me from getting, you know, the kind of recognition that I need. I need to be able to keep my feet firmly planted on the ground. You know, I need to be able to communicate with employers. I need to be able to have access to being able to support myself. Okay, and also, you know, I had just released a video a few days ago, and I had talked about the particular California Penal Code about withholding people's paychecks. Okay, uh, maybe a lot of people do not know about these sort of things, but it's important that you do. So I'm somebody who, #1, believes in working within a workplace based on psychology and law. Okay. And yes, for all of the kind of harassment and discrimination that employers inflict on employees. Okay. I do think it's important that I talk about the legalities of it, but I also think it's important to talk about the psychological devastation that it causes to the victim. Okay. It's important for people to remember that people go to work to support their families. Okay. They go to work to support their families. They go to work to pay their bills. They go to work to keep a roof over their head, to put food in on their table. And when you deal with people who just think it's funny to play a game, it is something that is completely disrespectful. And you wonder if these people actually are something that's a little bit deeper than that. If you're dealing with an employment situation where your employer is playing games with your life, you really do need to get some sort of assistance. And hopefully going forward, you know, I'm hoping that law enforcement will be more proactive. We will get better people in law enforcement. We will get, hopefully, that there will be, I know that there are certain organizations that research these sort of things, like the EEOC. I think that there should be EEOC representatives in each location, like by county. Okay, why? Because I feel as though the process of making these sort of complaints, it's too slow. Okay, I think it needs to be immediately handled and managed right away. Okay, like I said, you know, there's times where you might experience something negative. For example, I experienced being blacklisted because I wear half wigs. Okay. And because of this, I was blacklisted, was not able to find a job. I was gossiped about by these particular bullying women. That's another sexual harassment issue. Okay. So then you deal with gang stalking. You have your employers, your landlord, and other employers working together. And for example, because they work in this undignified manner, this could very well be the reason why I'm 2 months behind in rent. I was assuming that perhaps, and no one talks to me, I'm just kind of guessing that my son's employer was withholding his paycheck because he did not believe in my lifestyle. That is still against the law. Okay, I have the right to live my life however I want to. Okay, no matter what there is no reason for an employer to ever withhold pay. This is something that you need to understand. Okay, for whatever reason, if maybe they don't believe in buying things that they might look upon as extravagant, like some people think buying paper towels is extravagant. You know what I mean? I was kind of getting that feel from this group and the way that they felt. Like I'm somebody, I like to have paper towels. I like to have, dinner napkins. Those little disposable ones, they're very handy, okay? Maybe they themselves won't buy those sort of things. So they feel like, well, I don't want her to have it, so I don't want her to have any money. You're breaking the law. Okay? You're breaking the law. So a lot of people think, well, because I don't do this, I'm going to inflict this on you because blah, 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 blah. This is where I'm talking about. And a lot of times their excuses, the reason why they don't want to do this is because, oh, well, it's against my religion or whatever. That's your religion and everyone else has the right to have theirs. Okay? So I'm putting that together and I'm looking forward to it. And this weekend I will be working on that as well as my newsletter. And then next week I will be following up on jobs that I applied for. So I'm trying to get myself on a schedule and getting more, in tune with things because it's been a very long time having to deal with this particular network. It has been an absolute nightmare. Okay. And, I know that I've dealt with something for over 12 consecutive years. Okay. And I know I've been making videos about this issue for 10 years. So for all those years that I've suffered within this particular network, I hope that these people are seriously paying a price for what they've done. Okay. The other message I'm getting is that right now, it seems as though employers are taking an interest in what I'm doing, and I'm getting a lot of intuitive messages that I'm making an impact. Okay, and I will, like I said, my goal is to be the number one educator of employment. The number one employment educator. Okay, that's exactly what I want to do as Gordon's occupational engineering. So a lot of times when I do send out these blasts, I'm not only, introducing myself, but it's a way of getting people tidbit information. If I am going to be reviving Monday Merriment, I'm thinking about number one, having Vladimir Putin as a guest, as well as each episode ending not only with a synchronistic symbol, but also talking about a very important employment law. Okay. And I think that that's important. So hopefully everything's going to go well. I hope that I'm looking forward to what's going on in the future. And, I want to continue to keep my motivation up and keep on producing these videos. And I am going to be sending these out. And I will be adding the jobs that I apply to. I try to look up their personal email information to add them onto my blast. Why? Because I feel as though I need to, meet or introduce myself to as many people here within my community as well as outside of my community. Also, it's important to understand that the laws that I do reference in my videos are specific to the state of California. Federal laws that I do discuss mean that these pertain to the entire United States. If you are interested in my particular videos, okay, like for example, human targets, okay, and you live in another state and you yourself want to maybe encourage this, you are more than welcome to email me for the transcripts, and then you can go ahead and just insert your own information to the state and then make of the state that belongs to like wherever you live, and then go ahead and duplicate those videos. Okay, but I'm trying to start this and get this to go around the United States. Okay, like I want people to take interest in this. Okay, and this was the whole idea of the moral reset. I hope the state of California has now changed their mind on this issue. Okay, because I know that I was being blocked, and the message I'm getting right now is that this particular cult is dying in power. Okay, and people could not be happier. A lot of people were very unhappy by being in this situation. You know what I mean? Or maybe they felt like they felt pressure to be a part of it. Right? This is something that traffickers do, okay? And like I said, when issues like this escalate to this point, to where it's going across, state lines and this sort of stuff, we are dealing with a very big human trafficking issue, okay? And I am determined to knock it down completely. Okay, so I'm going to be back with another video in a little bit. Right now, I decided to I'm going to just kind of relax and maybe just hang out for a little bit, try to get my thoughts together. Because right now, I'm kind of trying to work through how to present something, kind of going over the different examples. And I try to, provide examples that are very clear and concise for the people to understand. And I do understand that there's a lot of people within this community, and and I totally understand. I talked about generational ignorance, okay? So I want to make sure I explain it in a way that you fully understand. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video, and I will be back with another video sometime later. Take care. Bye bye.